So today we're going to take a look at the GT Omega Apex rear seat frame add-on and their RS6 seat. Now, what this rear seat frame add-on does is turn your normal Apex wheel stand into a full cockpit. Now it's quite a logical progression really, because a lot of us start out perhaps with, the Logitech wheel and pedals and shifter perhaps mounted to a desk. And then we realise, the desk's a little bit wobbly, the pedals move around a bit, and we upgrade to a wheel stand because kind of incrementally price-wise, the next step up, is a wheel stand. GT Omega do a classic and they do the Apex. The Apex we've got here is their slightly more expensive but slightly more sturdy wheel stand. The classic is a little bit cheaper and not quite as sturdy. So again, depending on your price point, you choose one or the other. There's also a rear seat frame available for the classic wheel stand as well. So there's something for everyone's price point, which is quite good, especially when we're talking entry to mid-level stuff here. Maybe you're just getting into it and you don't want to spend too much money. So, excuse me, you've got your steering wheel, your pedal, your shifter, you've moved from your desk to your wheel stand, you've gone for the Apex, which is what we got here today. And then you realise that the drawback to having a wheel stand is that your chair that you have to use to race with can move around. If you get in the driver's seat of your car and someone's moved your seat, it's the most annoying thing in the world, isn't it? It's like I say, someone's moved my bloody seat, and you spend the next 10 minutes trying to find that perfect sweet spot how you like to drive. So when you use a wheel stand setup, that is exactly what you encounter every single time you want to race. Now, if you don't have space for a full cockpit, of course, it's just something you have to live with. But that's one of the biggest disadvantages. In addition to that, if you're running quite strong brake pedals, I mean, the Logitech brake pedal is pretty firm, to be fair. You can tip your chair back when you're braking hard. Maybe you're using a desk chair with wheels, and you brake and you find yourself sliding across the room. It's not ideal. So you've got to that point, you've got enough space for a full cockpit, but instead of having to buy a full cockpit, you can just buy the rear seat frame add-on and a seat, and we can bolt it all together, and we're going to have what I'm going to call the GT Omega Apex cockpit. They don't sell it as a complete cockpit on its own. You have to buy the two halves. They do the Omega Arc cockpit, they do the Arc Pro, and they do the Titan as well. So they do the cockpits out of the box scenario, but this is specifically for people that have gone that incremental route. Now, I did myself go this incremental route. I didn't get the Apex though. I went for their classic wheel stand because money was tight at the time and I didn't know whether I was really going to get into it that much. And then instead of me buying the rear seat frame add-on for the classic, I actually bought the GT Omega Arc cockpit, which is what I still use to this day and is over there in the background, with an RS6 seat, so you can see that there. That's what we're going to be building up in a little while as well. Now, the reason I did that is because I had a friend of mine that lived with me and he wanted a wheel stand, so it made sense for me to just sell him my wheel stand and for me to buy a whole cockpit. Anyway, enough of the waffle. I'm going to get this. I haven't opened this up. I haven't looked at any of it. So I'm going to get this open. I'm going to get it assembled. I imagine there's not a whole lot to it because, most of the assembly is already done at the front here. It is only going to be a frame and a seat. I'll speed it up and just put some music to it because you're not going to need a step-by-step. I'm sure it's pretty simple. If I encounter any issues along the way, then I'll slow it down and I'll talk about those issues. But otherwise, I'll see you in a couple of minutes with this all fully assembled, and we'll give it a little try out in some dirt rally and see how this GT Omega Apex setup behaves. Suppose should anybody want to see what the instructions look like, I may as well show you as best as I can, if I can get the pages open. Apologies to GT Omega, they actually sent me this ages ago and I've just been busy with things like the Quest 2 and haven't had a chance to get this video review out yet, but we'll just have a quick, so there's a list of parts on there and then we've got step by step showing you how to do it. If you're not interested in this, then by all means skip through. There's actually quite a few pages of instructions here, so I'm sure it looks more complicated than it is. But yeah, we got it step by step, we got it photographed. What else do we need? There you go. Right, I'll get back to it. There's all the parts laid out on the floor, just in case you fancy seeing everything laid out before I get it together. And we've got some little feet as well. Aside from that, I had a bag of bolts and nuts and the tools to put it all together as well, which is always a nice touch, not having to root around and try and find your own tools. So yeah, let's go. Right, so that's the frame assembled and bolted to the Apex wheel stand. It wasn't too difficult. The instructions actually make it look more difficult or more complicated, should I say, than it actually is. I actually ended up sort of focusing on this picture at the front here, if you can see that. I ended up referencing that quite a few times throughout the assembly process because the instructions themselves just made it look a little bit more confusing. But it's really very simple to put together. And actually talking about the instructions, this rectangular piece on the top here, it doesn't mention how to put that on at all in the instructions. That's just missing for whatever reason. But again, it's pretty obvious because if you look at the picture, you can see where it sits, and there's 4 bolts and 4 nuts of the exact size you need to bolt it down, and then we'll be able to put our seat on. So yeah, the assembly was easy. The instructions is a little bit confusing, but all in all, it's gone together. It looks good so far. I'm gonna get the seat out of the box now, throw that together, throw that on there, and then I'll see you guys in a second. Just very quickly, these are the 2 halves of the seat as they come out the box. We get a big Allen key, a small Allen key, and 2 bolts, and a couple of these plastic covers, which I'm sure we'll find out where they go in a second. So there's the seat put together. It didn't come with any instructions, but it's so simple, you don't really need instructions. I'll tell you what I had to do. There's 4 bolts, 2 in this side and 2 in this side. They already come in the holes with the washers they need. Screwed it at the top half, this is. All you do is take them out, get this top section, slot it down in between the 2 upright bits of the bottom section and put those 4 bolts back in. And then there's just these 2 plastic covers, one here and one here, and there's a bolt for each of those that you just screw in to hold them in place. And that's it, that's the seat put together. So that didn't take very long at all. Now, this is slightly different to my RS6 seat over there, but mine's a few years old now. They've changed the reclining mechanism. These covers here are different. Other than that, it looks pretty much the same. I'll have a proper look and comparison in a minute, but yeah, the build quality and everything feels pretty sturdy and pretty solid, just like my other one does. So we'll get it on there now and have a little race, I think. Right, it is all together, but I figure before I do a quick race and you get to see how solid it is and whether there's any movement and flex and what have you, I figure I'll grab the camera and just do you a little close-up walk around of it all assembled and just show you where the adjustments are and bits and pieces that you might want to be interested in. But so far, you know, first impressions, it feels very much, you know, the same sort of quality as what I've had over there for the last couple of years, which is good. I can't really complain for sort of, you know, mid-level sim racing equipment. The seat feels solid. The recliner mechanism, the spring is really, really strong, which is great. It doesn't feel cheap. The mechanism feels smooth, so that's nice. The frame assembly itself is made of the same box section as what the front half of the Apex cockpit is, so you know what you're getting because you've already got the front. It's looking really good so far, so I'm quite looking forward to hopping in and having a little go. But let me grab the camera and just give you a little walk around, a little close-up before we get to that. So how it actually attaches, you remove the 4 feet that were on the bottom of your Apex wheel stand here and here, and then this bar goes underneath, that now has its own feet on. It joins here with the rear section that then comes in, which then stops there, and then there is a rear sort of foot or length that goes across the back there. And it's mirrored obviously on the other side. So that's how the extension actually fits. It bolts up into this where your original feet bolted up into. So pretty simple to put on. You know, you just put those 2 lengths on, and then you throw this sort of rear seat frame together, which is only a few bolts. This front bar here comes with this bolt in each end. There's a rear bar the same. So you just whip the bolts out, put the bar across, put the bolts back in, and that holds this piece sort of in shape. Put that rear foot length across the back, which I may as well show you from behind. Yeah, you just see it runs across the very bottom there. You put that in, and again, this is that other bar that you put across, and that's the rear seat frame. Then there's just this square piece that sits on the top with 4 bolts that I mentioned earlier, and then, you know, you literally just throw your seat on the top. So it's really very simple. As far as adjustment goes, where you bolt this rear seat frame, the whole thing's called a rear seat frame, you know what I mean, where you bolt this actual rear piece to these legs that come out, you might say, there's adjustment all along here. So you can choose whether you want it closer, in the middle, or further back, and each of those 3 presets are also slotted. So you've got quite a bit of adjustment there. Obviously the seat itself, the RS6 Seat, is on rails, on runners, so that slides backwards and forwards as well. So you've got loads of adjustment, and obviously you already own the Apex wheel stand, so you know you can adjust that up and down and what have you. Now obviously, now it's a full cockpit, it doesn't fold away like it used to, but the footprint of it is actually pretty small. Looking at it, a much smaller footprint than what my art is in the background there. So, you know, if you want to shy on space, this is probably not a bad way to go. Anyway, that's the little look around. There isn't really that much to see, so I want to jump in it and give it a little test. Just a quick note before we do this little test drive in Dirt Rally. You all knew it was going to be Dirt Rally, you know me by now. The pricing of this Apex rear seat frame, 80 notes for the rear seat frame add-on and 140 for this RS6 Seat from GT Omega themselves. And don't forget also, if you do want to buy anything from GT Omega, I have a discount code. The link is in the description. It's not actually a code. You just click the link, it takes you through, and the discount is added automatically. So if you are looking to buy any of these products or anything else from GT Omega, you know, use the link below. It helps the channel, it helps me, and it helps you guys by saving you some hard-earned coin, which is all good. So let's do a little test drive and see how she holds up. Now, I had to move my pedals all the way forward for my leg length. I'm about 5'11", 6 foot, depending what time of day you measure me. So I had to move my pedals all the way forward for me, and I had to lower this steering wheel base down compared to when it was set up using my desk chair. So it's actually quite a low sitting position, which I quite like, especially as this TV I'm using here is sitting quite low. I was concerned it was going to block off the screen, but it hasn't. Obviously we're using the trusty Logitech G920 to try this out with the pedals and the shifter. H-pattern gear change as always. I just like it that way. I find it more fun, more engaging. What I don't find fun is talking and rally driving because I'm crap at it. But you all know that as well. What's important here is take a look at the seat frame and the seat itself. Don't look at my driving. Bloody hell. Especially don't look at my driving. Let's, where's reverse? There. Oh, we're not even running. Yeah, pay attention to the rear frame. Pay attention to the seat. You know, keep your eyes open for any sort of movement as I'm pressing hard on the brake pedal like this. I'll do that a few times. In fact, you know, does the seat tilt back? Is there any lift up from the ground under braking? They're the sort of things you're looking out for. Any side to side wobble, perhaps. You know, when I'm steering hard like this, you know, is the seat wobbling around? It doesn't feel like it is. It all feels pretty solid to me. I know some people with the Art cockpit, the one I've got over there, I really can't drive and talk, say that if they brake hard, they've had the cockpit lift up off the ground in the middle, or that might actually have been the Pro. But I'm not feeling, I mean, I can brake hard. Are we getting any lift? No, I'm not getting any lift. Any lift at all. In fact, that's really very solid. Yeah, I can't complain. For an 80 no add-on, I can't remember how much this Apex stand is, but I'm wondering whether the price of the Apex wheel stand and the rear seat add-on comes close to the price of an Art cockpit. It might be worth having a look and comparing the two, because this feels pretty solid. I can't say there's any reason why I wouldn't recommend it as an entry-level cockpit. I mean, yeah, you won't want to put a DD wheel on it, or it's enough driving. We know what's going on. Yeah, you wouldn't want to put a direct drive wheel on this, really, because it probably wobble a little bit. I mean, check out my review of the wheel stand itself if you're interested in more detail about the Apex wheel stand. You know, it's a good wheel stand and I do recommend it. And then like the Next Level Racing DD wheel stand is quite a lot more money and it's only a tiny bit more rigid. So for most of us, this would be, you know, the sort of perfect wheel stand, so to speak, price versus performance type scenario. And then, yeah, 80 notes to throw this on the back. And if you've got, you know, you can put on whatever seat you want, really. But this RS6 one is quite nice. I don't know. Like I say, mine's held up well over the last two or 3 years. There's no wear, no tear, no rips or anything like that on mine. So I imagine this would be much the same. Anyway, I think that's probably everything you all need to know. You've seen how to throw it together. You've seen what comes in the box. You've seen it's pretty solid. There's no movement as such in it. Yeah, I think that's probably everything. So yeah, if you want one, by all means, I can recommend it. If you've got the front section, you want a back section, absolutely go ahead and get one. No problems there at all. Speaking of the Next Level Racing DD wheel stand, they're bringing out a rear section for that. So for any of you that bought that wheel stand at some point, I'm going to be getting a rear section in to review for that as well. Again, that's all a price level above this GT Omega stuff. You know, this is our mid-range stuff that will do for 95% of the sim racers out there. You know, the Next Level Racing DD stand is a lot of money for a wheel stand, but it is designed for direct drive wheels. So we'll see what the rear section of that is like when I get one of those as well. But for today, I can definitely recommend the rear section add-on for the Apex wheel stand if you do want to upgrade to a full cockpit without having to sell up and actually buy a whole new full cockpit. You know, because maybe you've made some customizations to this wheel stand. Maybe you fitted a tactile transducer under your pedal deck. Maybe you've got wind, you know, fans on here. Maybe you've got LED lights. Who knows? Maybe you've got a little digital dash fitted here. Who knows what you might have done. So, you know, just being able to bolt on an arse end makes things a lot quicker and easier than perhaps getting rid of your stand and buying a different cockpit and starting all over again. But anyway, thanks very much for watching. Thanks to GT Omega for sending these couple of bits over to us. I'll catch you guys all in the next one, and as always, take it easy.